Hi my crafter friends, it's Jeannie Rainey here back in my craft room. We're going to get started on this first card by using some watercolor paper. We're going to die cut one of the edges. Then when I cut that apart, you can see where it can be used with two different designs, so easily making a nice horizon. We're using Balmy Blue as our background, and we're going to texture it with the Tasteful Textiles 3D embossing folder. You use the 1 and the 4 plate. It gives a very subtle texture to it. Now this is on Blushing Bride color cardstock, and I'm going to cut 4 times of each of these shapes. So there's like 4 different sizes, but we'll need 4 of each size for this card. And then cutting out the tree with crumb cake, trees. Look how detailed the die is. It's wonderful. Now this is a new technique. I learned something the other day about watercoloring, that watercolor works best with a lot of water. So I learned that you saturate your paper first with water and then you bring in your ink, and that way the ink has a chance to flow with the excess water that's on there. So that's why I'm reaching over into a cup of water and grabbing more water, then grabbing more ink. The water allows the ink to flow, and then you get that really natural look. You can always go back and add more water or go back and add more ink. I don't know why I didn't know this before. The paper does curl a little bit, but once it's dry, it does flatten up. Now for the blossoms, I'm just going to use Petal Pink ink, and I use an acrylic block as my mat. So I grabbed some ink and I'm just dotting randomly over the die cut pieces. Then I'll do the same thing with Rich Razzleberry ink. Be careful, the Rich Razzleberry is very dark, so make sure you get it watered down well. In my sample here, I didn't water it down enough, in my opinion. So you want to be careful with that when you do yours. Now we're ready to do some assembling. We'll go ahead and with the liquid adhesive, adhere the back layer of the horizon, and then the trees go in between. And then the top layer. See how the green ink has a wonderful flow to it. And then we'll just position the blossoms, and I start with the biggest one and then go to the next size down and just kind of fill in the spaces. using the embossing buddy and the Versamark, I'm going to use white embossing powder. It's nice to have a paintbrush handy in case you get the powder where you don't want it. Then after I heat it, I'm going to banner cut the edges. And then with liquid adhesive, adhering it to a piece of basic white. I'm going to use dimensionals on the back of that. And then some gold thread. I'll tie a bow. And adhere that with a dimensional as well in the center. And then place it on my card. Now I'm ready to put it onto my card base. And then this card is done. Well, we have to add some bling to it. These are iridescent rhinestones, basic jewels. They're gorgeous. They take on lots of different colors, so it's a perfect addition for this card. Now I'm going to be using sponges. I'm going to make a background that I will be die cutting. So just random spots of Daffodil Delight. Then I'll be using Pumpkin Pie as well as Mary Merlot. It's going to be a real fall looking card. So the first card was more springish and this one is more fall, just to show the variety of different seasons you can use with this set. The sentiments here are wonderful. There's Christmas, get well, sympathy, just thank you so much and congratulations, and all kinds of sentiments. This stamp set can take you through the whole year. Now this designer paper, this blue, is from Beauty of the Earth designer series papers. And it's a 2.5 by 4.5 piece. You can see the design on the back side. They're double-sided. Just take the corners off, and then I'm going to use the Label Me Fancy Punch, which has extras in it, so it helps you make labels. So we're going to punch out this one edge, little notch there, to make a really easy label. Now, when I die cut these pieces, I kept all the little bits that came out of it because I want to use those as leaves, and I'll be making a pile of leaves on the bottom. But I die cut as many pieces as I could out of the 4.25 by 5.5 piece of white. Take your pick tool, works wonderful for all these little tiny bits. Now we'll bring in the ribbon. It's the woven ribbon, it's 1/2 inch. And we'll secure that on with linen thread. So first what I'm going to do is tie a knot. After my knot is tied, then I'll tie the bow. Just makes it easier to have it knotted first. And then I'll trim off all the edges. Then using Stampin' Dimensionals, I'll adhere this to my card base at kind of an angle, not straight up and down. Just offset it a little bit. You can see the pattern on the back. All of our designer series papers are double-sided, which makes them really versatile. And then for the sentiment, this one is going to say congratulations, using Mary Merlot ink. I'm going to practice first, a couple of times. Then to soften the edge, I'm going to bring my punch back in and put the one edge and punch to give it a softer edge. And then I'm going to put a little bit of color on the back of my sentiment. And I didn't really like how it turned out. It was a little too thin, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that other little strip that I cut off, just to give some more color under the sentiment. And then I'll apply it with Stampin' Dimensionals. And then that card is done. So here's my 2 cards that I have for you today. The other 2 cards are available on the Stampin' Up! Website. Thank you for joining my Focus Friday. Here's the instructions and supplies. Again, today's focus was Inspired Thoughts stamp set with inspiring canopy dies. Very versatile set. You can see how this can be used all year round for different seasons. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure and share and like.